if you want to support the show, any of the shows, either this or whichever show, I'm not on right now because it's just a blanket ad for all of them, and the website, you can go to bewareofspoilers.com. In the description for any of the episodes of Beware of Spoilers, there is the option to donate. If you don't want to donate that way, you can donate directly through the website. We do have that, mwpnews.com. And if you don't want to support that way, then going to mwpnews.com will help out because we have ads there. We don't want to keep it, where there's a lot of ads. There's a few ads. But the point is we want to make it so that way, we can sustain this for the long term. If people donate, we're never going to paywall anything, I don't think, as of right now. But if people, start donating, we'll start doing cooler and cooler stuff. Like donations are how we get to cover stuff like Tribeca and other, film festivals. And, we may be able to bring on more people to help out. So if you want to help out the show and you want more content from us, by all means, even just going and giving us a 5-star rating on Spotify helps out a lot. But that's it. That's the only ad we'll have on the podcast ever. But here's whatever podcast you're going to be listening to. Good morning and welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam. We're here to talk about Comic-Con, because Comic-Con is starting, today. Today is the first day of panels for Hall H. We will be covering a lot of what happens, just in a slightly different format from usual. Rather than what we've done in the past, where if anything big comes up, I'll do an episode, we're going to aggregate it all. We're going to be keeping tabs on the various panels up on our on the website at mwpnews.com. I have an article up for Thursday already, because they only have Hall H panels on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday this year. So today is the first one. Today is the first day of panels, culminating in a Deadpool and Wolverine panel, kind of a victory lap, I believe. And here's the thing. I've looked through the panel list, because I've started the templates for the other 2 days, and looking through the panel list, there's a notably absent panel, and that's DC Studios. And that's what we're going to talk about today, as we get into, with Comic-Con starting today. This episode will be going up around 1:30-ish, so it'll be right as the first panels are hitting. My question is, why is DC Studios not here? Because here's the thing. We've talked about it at length, about Marvel, and about how Marvel is in a weird place right now, where they kind of had, the world by the string. They had it all. They were the show. They were the franchise of the 2010s, I would say, and they since then have kind of stumbled a bit, and that there's a lot that goes into that, and we've dissected what I think some of the root causes are. I think a lot of it is studio interference and Disney trying to turn a profit on the Fox deal quickly, and then on top of that too, it's trying to prove the value of Disney Plus through overloading it with content. And I think a lot of that did dictate what we had with this kind of weird interlude chapter, before the introduction of mutants formally, and that's kind of where we are, and where the Marvel Cinematic Universe is. That said, Marvel Studios is coming out at Comic-Con and doing a big panel, not just their big, not just their Deadpool and Wolverine panel. They're doing a second Hall H panel where they talk about other stuff going forward. So there's a lot that they're doing, and that is good for them. The issue is, what about the other side of the aisle? Or the other side of the street? It's not politics, it's, it's comics. And On the other side of the street, DC has a few things going on. They have Joker, which just had a trailer come out this week. They aren't going to have Joker there, from what I saw at the Hall H panels. Allegedly, they have an animation panel, but like Marvel has an animation panel for their animation stuff, that's not a Hall H panel. We will talk about that if anything big comes out of it, but by and large, we'll be covering Hall H stuff. And they have Kite Man, hell yeah. They have like Creature Commandos there, and they have the Penguin. The Penguin's going to be in Hall H, and they have Superman and Lois, which is going to have Hall H, which is the end of the Arrowverse. Like, I know I eulogized the Arrowverse when The Flash ended, but this, I think, is truly the end of the Arrowverse. And, you know, part of me hopes to get some cameos, some other stuff, because I feel like that's the thing, is that it's like, if at this point you have to realize you're the lone survivor, and this is your last season, I think you kind of have to, if possible, bring in some of the other people. Hey, I mean, Melissa just worked with Greg Berlanti again on The Girls on the Bus. Maybe she can stop in or fly by for an episode. Who knows? I know it's in an alternate universe, but we'll see. Regardless, the point I'm trying to make is, I don't think it's a great sign for where Warner Brothers is that there isn't a big DC Studios panel. And I think part of this, this is a nuanced issue, because number one, your studio head is directing a movie, which is not a great decision, I think. I think having Gunn direct Superman is a good decision, and I think having Gunn run DC Studios is a good decision. I think having those two things happen at the same time is not. Because as a studio head, as someone who is going to be running the entirety of what's going on with DC films, like, that is a whole job and a half. Because you have to keep track of the story, you have to keep track of what directors are doing what, you have to keep track of what actors you have where. There's a lot that goes into that. And then on the other side, Feige isn't directing a movie for Marvel Studios. I mean, I don't know if he can direct, I don't know if he has that ability, he's a producer, but he's not directing anything for Marvel Studios. That's just plain and simple. And when you get to DC Studios having this, you know, their studio heads directing a movie, like, Superman's not done filming, I don't think. I think that Nicholas Hoult is wrapped, but I don't think the majority of the cast, I think a good amount of the cast still hasn't wrapped. So they're not done shooting the movie yet, and the movie comes out in a little under a year. So I'm not saying that it's not going to hit its date or anything like that. I'm saying that, like, the movie is still not done yet. So I get if you can't come with Superman footage or a Superman trailer. But if that's the case, just do what they did at CinemaCon for Bad Boys, Ride or Die, where it's like, hey, we're on set shooting this right now. Here's a look at the suit, here's a look at this, here's a look at the Justice Society, here's all this stuff that we're doing. Like, so get hyped. Because here's the thing, too. There's only gonna be this is the last Comic-Con before Superman comes out. This is the last one. So, like, what are you doing? Like, are you just gonna not do it? Like, are you just gonna ignore it? Like, it feels like an odd choice to not have that big Hall H panel. And I think the last time that DC had a big panel, it was a Saturday morning one for Black Adam. Because I don't think they had one last year. And the thing is, too, it's like, here's the thing. I feel like the announcement that Gunn is going to be the new head of DC Studios should have been a moment where it's like, okay, we have a firm hand on the steering wheel now. We know what's going to happen. Because let's be honest, Snyder or not, DC Films has not been well managed since they've been trying to play catch up to Marvel. Because first they tried to, first they tried to have Snyder run everything. Then it turned out Snyder, didn't want to, Snyder's tone didn't resonate with audiences besides his little cult. And, you know, then once that happened, it's like, it's a, what's all there for here? It's, you know, once that happened, but then they were stuck trying to, okay, so we're going to do a bunch of spin-offs of the movie that he made, and now we got to do X, Y, and Z too. We're going to do, like, Gotham City Sirens that never came out, or Suicide Squad 2, which kind of happened, but not the same. We got to do and then they launched into Suicide Squad as movie number 3, and, you know, Batman v Superman as movie number 2, and then it's like, oh, we're doing a Cyborg movie, oh, we're doing a Flash movie, and that's going to take 10 years to release. Between the announcement of the Flash movie and the release of the Flash movie, they ran the entire Flash TV show for 9 seasons. Like, that's an impressive feat to take that long in development hell to get a movie out from a major studio and a major franchise. And there's just a lot of things where it's like, this is just kind of mismanaged. And then the change of power from Snyder to, I think it was Hamada who took over right after, was not that great either, because then you end up in a situation where it's like, okay, so Hamada wants to do X, Y, and Z. We're going to use these characters. Some of these characters are still good. Audiences still like some of these characters, so we'll use some of them. And it's just kind of like, things aren't working out for them. It's like, oh, and here's Shazam. Oh, and here's this. And I think that, like, one of the things is, I said years ago, one of the things that they should consider at DC as kind of a counterpoint to Marvel is everything is connected. DC should be, well, everything's, you know, kind of connected. We're not going to strictly adhere to, you know, the things that you know and the things that you, and the things that you, like, not everything's going to be equally canon, because not everything's going to make sense in a perfect world. Because that's the thing, too, is that it's like, okay, so they had this big overarching continuity, but, like, Aquaman does not fit into the canon of Justice League, because it's like, you know, and it's one of those things, like, if they just don't acknowledge that he fights Steppenwolf in Atlantis, you're fine. And then it's like, but you came here and fought Steppenwolf, and it's like, oh, this is weird now, because this doesn't fit. And that's kind of the problem with a lot of what was going on, is that, like, okay, so we have this Nightwing movie, we have Gotham City Sirens, we have this, we're gonna do a Ben Affleck Batman movie, oh wait, we're not, we're gonna, like, there were a lot of things that were kind of loftily talked about, and it's like, okay, we're gonna do all these things, and none of them ever came to pass. And the only things we've really gotten out of DC Studios so far is kind of that same level of messaging, unfortunately. We got that big announcement video that Gunn dropped right after he was announced to be head of DC Studios. He came out and here is part 1 of chapter 1 of DC Studios. And it's like, we're doing a Superman movie, we're doing a Batman movie, we're doing we're doing Lanterns, we're doing, what else was there? Swamp Thing with James Mangold, we're doing The Authority. Like, okay, I get it. You have a plan. There are things you want to do. I don't know if it's a great plan. I don't know if this is a smart plan, but you have a vision for what you're going for, like, and good for you for having that. And then we had other reports coming later, like, and other statements that came outside that video, like Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and the prequel to the Wonder Woman story, by doing a Themyscira Game of Thrones type show. Okay, great, got it all. Okay, I understand what you're going for here. I like it. Let's go for it. Here's the problem, though. We've had very little movement on a lot of these things since then. We got the casting of one member of the Authority because she's appearing in Superman. We got the casting of Supergirl, Millie Gibson, because she's appearing in Superman. And we got a date for Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. And again, I feel like I'm back in the mid to late 2010s where these things are being announced and being, being worked on, allegedly, and we have very little progress on where anything is. Oh, this person's attached to this. Oh, this person's attached to this. Oh, this person's attached to this. That's all great. You could say this person's attached, but until we get a formal announcement, what does it mean? And I think that the fact of the matter is, I think Warner Brothers not showing up here is them being like, we are hedging our bets because we don't know if this is going to work. And I think that speaks to the damage that Snyder did to the brand. I think that, and not just Snyder and Hamada, and I think too, when we get down to it, it's going to be the brass at Warner Brothers who allowed this situation to go on as long as it did. Because that's the key here. And it's not just that they fucked up, but it's that they fucked up systemically and allowed it to go on way longer than it ever should have. Like, the issue is, it's like, once you get rid of Snyder, you have to do a tonal shift, and you have to, like, commit to that, but they don't. And all you do is you end up muddying the brand. So you ended up hitching your wagon to a bunch of movies that people didn't like. Because people didn't like Justice League. People didn't like Batman v Superman. People didn't like... And if you're a Snyder fan, which I'm assuming I have no Snyder fans listening to this, if you're a Snyder fan, keep it to yourself. And I know Peter enjoyed it. But audiences at large did not resonate with these movies. You could say it's because they're too dumb. I don't care what your rationale is or how you rationalize it to yourself to help you sleep at night. Whatever, it is what it is. Audiences did not resonate with those movies, which is a problem when you're making a $200 million superhero movie that is expected to gross $1 billion. When you look at the Avengers and you're like, oh, look at what money that's making, we're going to be doing our own version of that. Like, if you can't pull if you're pulling $800 million on the cinematic the first time in a theater Superman and Batman are on screen together, if you're only pulling $800 million, and the Avengers, which is a team of, and let's go through this again, Tony Stark, Captain America, like, we're not talking about A-list people here. These were people who, before the movies, were like C-list, B-list, C-list characters. If you can't take your marquee characters and make $1 billion out of it, that's a serious problem. So, I think what this is I think that the current brass at Warner Bros., this might be the smartest decision that Zaslav has made yet, is they're hedging their bets on the DC Studios thing. I think it's them concerned that, like, look, you have these ideas, and I think the thing is, too, is, like, when you look at what he announced and, like, what he's planning to do, it's like, why the fuck in Phase 1 is Swamp Thing there? Why the fuck in Phase 1 is the Authority there? Like, look, it's a big swing, but it's an expensive big swing, and it's not your money to make that big swing. And I like Gunn, I respect Gunn, I trust Gunn. I trust that if Gunn's going to do this, there's going to be good movies. I don't know that we're looking at a situation where this is going to be fantastic. And the issue becomes, if you're Warner Brothers, why would you go out and be like, okay, so here's directors, here's writers, here's where these things are in production, in the way that Marvel is, where Marvel can come in and just swing its dick and be like, hey guys, check it out, look what we're doing. Like, and I get it. I like, they're in two very different positions, but at the same time, it comes off bad that you're not showing off these big titles at arguably the biggest platform possible. And the thing is, unless DC's having a fandom between now and the end of the year or early next year before the release, I don't think they have a window really to do this. Like, they don't have, the place where they can just synergize in the way Disney can with their major releases. They don't have, their own convention that they can with that. And granted, look, and I'm running out of time here because I am on my way to work, but there was a report that they are going to drop news. And I'm like, what are they going to do? Drop the Superman trailer in the middle of the day? And just, like, first of all, I don't think there's enough for a trailer to be cut if Nicholas Hoult wrapped 2 days ago or yesterday. Like, I don't think that they can have a trailer cut in time. That's number one. Number two, like, if I'm, if you're going to drop something in the middle of Comic-Con, are you going to drop it in the middle of, like, there are two places. One, you drop it in the middle of Hall H for when Marvel's presenting its thing. Not tonight. You do it during the Saturday night one. If not there, where do you drop it? And the only place I can think of is that you tack it on to Superman and Lois, which, again, another issue with the previous administration. They allowed the Snyder cult to metastasize like a cancer instead of, just being like, look, we're not doing that. We're not paying $75 million to stroke the ego of a director who thinks he was wronged. We're like, yes, studios fuck with movies. That's what happens in Hollywood. That's what happens in Hollywood. That is the issue if you become a big director. That will happen to you. Especially if you're dealing with a $200 million movie and it's $200 million of someone else's money. It's not, and they're not your characters. But we'll wrap up there for today. I was, mildly perturbed about this. I'm hoping I'm wrong, and I'm hoping that DC can do something well with this, but I think that this speaks to a lack of confidence from Warner Brothers, but we'll see. So we'll be back on Sunday with our complete wrap-up coverage of all the big news. So until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.